First, we just need to start with what is Zionism. Zionism didn't start, with Bibi Netanyahu, even though many people tell you that it did. Didn't start in 1948 when the state was founded. Didn't start in 1897 when Herzl wrote Unison. In my view, Zionism started right here. Right here. Right here. Now, I don't say this like some messianic person, but you cannot disentangle Zion and Zionism from Judaism. Period. You can't. So, there's no question there are people who are very angry about the state of Israel. They're very angry about Bibi Netanyahu. They're very angry about this, that, and the other. But Zionism is simply the right of Jews to self-determination in their ancient homeland. The one that Moshe Rabbeinu brought us to. The one where Jews have lived for thousands of years. Now, yes, Jews were enslaved, exiled, and then lived in Christian Europe or Muslim Middle East, and were subjected to inquisitions, and persecutions, and pogroms, and Shoahs, and Farhoods, and on and on. But the reality is that the Jewish connection to that land is not political. It's essential to our identities. And if you don't believe me, I would invite anyone sitting in this room to open up a Siddur. That's what we have Siddurim. Find me a page that doesn't mention Yerushalayim or Eretz Israel or Zion. You can try this. Maybe you can find one. But the reality is all Zionism is the right of Jews to self-determination. That doesn't say anything about excluding Arabs or Muslims or Palestinians. It's just the right of Jews to self-determination in our homeland. So then what's anti-Zionism? Anti-Zionism is the negation of that right. Anti-Zionism is the denialism of that and us and our identities. Anti-Zionism is an ideology of nihilism. Now wait, you say, but I know Jewish anti-Zionists. That's okay. That's fine. Look, the truth is that maybe in a seminar at University of Miami, down the road, on 19th century theories of nationalism, you can talk about anti-Zionism. We can talk about all other kinds of nationalism. But if the only nationalism you're opposed to is Jewish nationalism, you're an anti-Semite. It's just true. Now, by the way, well, wait a second, I'm Jewish and I'm an anti-Zionist. Look, I'm not going to impugn or try to interpret your intent. I don't know what you're thinking, what you've learned or not learned. Maybe you're miseducated, I don't know. But let me tell you, if not intent, the outcome. The outcome of anti-Zionism is 10-7. The outcome of an ideology that dehumanizes Zionists and renders them as objects is 10-7. And no one knows this better than the Jewish people. Because as I said before, for thousands of years, we were rendered as subhuman. We were objectified. We were dehumanized, and we know how it worked out. So it is certainly true that there are Jews who say, I believe in diasporism. God bless. Good for you. But anti-Zionism, whether by intent or outcome, is anti-Semitism. And I say that absolutely, and I will not apologize. Not now or not ever for my Zionism. I won't apologize for it, and none of you should. Now look, maybe when Biden, maybe if you're a Republican, you're upset about Biden. I don't think you renounce your commitment to America. Maybe as a Democrat, you're upset about Trump. I don't think you renounce your commitment to America. Maybe as a Zionist, you're upset about Bibi Netanyahu. You don't renounce your commitment to Israel. My Zionism compels me to push Israel to be the best that it can be. But don't let anyone, and look, I'm going to acknowledge, again, for those of you who raise your hand, who have friends or family members with kids or grandkids who say they're anti-Zionist. Like, look, there are also folks from different communities who may say things that are self-hating. They might not intend to, but in the real world, in the world in which I live, where anti-Semitic incidents are up 330 some odd %, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Period. Full stop.
So I used to work in Silicon Valley, worked in tech for many years. I'm a big fan of tech. I used to build software products. I ran the consumer products divisions of public companies that did this. Technology does a lot of good, the internet does a lot of good, social media does a lot of good, and yet the net on it is bad. And social media itself is a super spreader of anti-Semitism and intolerance and hate. And we've seen, and we launched the center back in 2017 at ADL, the Center for Technology and Society, to study these trends and to work with the companies. We work with all the companies today, from Amazon to Apple to all the meta products like Facebook and Instagram to X to TikTok to Zoom, Snap, everything in between, all the Google products. And the truth is that, you know, they say if it bleeds, it leads. And sensationalism sells. And in a world where conspiracy theories, like Jacob said, are kind of the point of the realm, and where all of us are getting our news here, I mean, I know many of you probably think the New York Times is the problem. Your kids and grandkids, they don't read the New York Times. They're reading their Instagram feed. They're looking at TikTok videos. And so we can fight the New York Times battle, but we've also got to go to where the front line really is. So we have computer scientists, software engineers at ADL working on these problems. It's not going to happen easily. I've ultimately come to the conclusion that we need government to come in and regulate. You know, basically, if you publish something in the Miami Herald that's libelous, you could be sued. If you post it on Facebook, nothing. There's a loophole in the law which exempts the companies from liability. Change that rule, everything changes overnight. So we're really working on that.
Good news is getting people like Ben Sass, President Frank in Miami. You've got some amazing leaders here in the state of Florida. Amazing. And it starts with leadership. The problems and the solutions, they all start with leadership. But the reality is that whereas the schools of Florida have definitely been better, there is truly an epidemic of anti-Semitism on our campuses. And I would actually go so far as to say in our educational environments. It is most acute on our campuses, but it's coming to K through 12 schools near you. So it's interesting because, you know, ADL's not on college campuses. A lot of other Jewish groups are, God bless them. We're not. We never have been. But as we've seen things sort of metastasize, we feel like we now need to go toward the goal. We partner with Hillel, we partner with AEPI, with CBT, we just announced something with Chabad on campus. But the truth is that this anti-Zionism as an ideology has taken root in so many of these institutions. Part of it is because of the crazy, look, we track all the extremist groups, and I can tell you that extremist groups have with intention targeted universities and created a model with chapters. They've recruited faculty who bring these groups to campus and work with students, and it goes sideways pretty fast. It's not an accident. This happened at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Brandeis, Northwestern, Tufts. It's not an accident. It's by design. It's not a conspiracy. You can look at all the data. It's all there. So
I can tell you what we're doing in response to this, because I think it's bad and getting worse. So number one, we're trying to target these bad actors, a handful of groups that are driving this. I mean, by the way, you know, Hamas is a foreign terror organization. That's not my opinion. That's the State Department's official position. And maybe it won't surprise you, but you know, you can't do a big sale for ISIS at US. Right? ISIS is a foreign organization. You will get arrested. And you can't sell the Al-Qaeda magazine, you know, at the bookstore at University of Florida. You will get arrested. So why are these groups able to push and promote the Hamas propaganda? It's crazy. So number one, we are trying to cast a very bright light on these groups. Because again, I think what they're doing is potentially a breach of the criminal code. But even more than that, it's a violation of the codes of conduct for all these institutions. We had a situation last week at the University of Michigan where a student, a sophomore, did you hear about this? You might have. A sophomore, she posted on social media, and I'm paraphrasing, I will not rest until all the Zionists are killed. I wish for them death and worse. And I think it went downhill after that. Was she suspended? Was she expelled? Was there any disciplinary action taken? Could you imagine for a moment if you had filled in that word with any other marginalized group on a campus at the University of Michigan? I won't rest until all the are killed. Feminists, take that. Do you think that the administration would allow that student to attend classes? Really? Really? So, again, it's not incitement is not covered in the First Amendment. Freedom of expression is the freedom to incite violence. Freedom of speech is the freedom to slander. That's not protected speech. So we're number one trying to shine a bright light on these groups and get them treated appropriately. Secondly, next week on the 9th, we are releasing our first ever report card of how major universities are handling anti-Semitism. This is going to be very significant. We're grading the top 85 or 90 schools to start, and then next year it'll be 200 and change. A to F on how are they creating environments where our kids are safe. Now, you know, I have a kid at an Ivy League school, and he has to go there and be aware in a way that I wasn't. I didn't go to an Ivy League school, I couldn't have gotten there. But the point is that this report card, I think, will be a very big deal and important. And then the third thing I'll just say is I have been dealing with all of these schools, from Penn, where Jacob went to school, to Harvard, to Yale, all of them. MIT, Columbia, Cornell, Michigan, UCLA, on and on and on. And at some point, I just ran out of energy. And what I realized is that pressing the college presidents to find a spine is a useless exercise. But you know what they do respond to? Money. Now I know, God bless Mark Rowan for putting pressure, and Bill Ackman for putting pressure. But the truth is that the real money is federal funding. And that you can stop flowing to the schools through something called Title VI. If these universities violate the civil rights of their students, including discriminating against Jewish or Israeli students, the federal government can take a Title VI action against them for violating the students' civil rights. And if that happens, their federal funds stop that. It will freeze their existing grants, and they will forfeit future ones. Now, these laws were put in place decades ago, and for decades, the U.S. Department of Education never looked at a single anti-Semitism case. So about 4 months ago, ADL, in partnership with Hillel and the law firm of Gibson Dunn, we launched a platform to facilitate the ability of students to bring Title VI cases. We organized Gibson Dunn, Morgan Lewis, Arnold and Porter, and Latham and Watkins, some pretty big law firms, and we trained up about 300 plus lawyers, and then we launched a tech. like a platform. So students could call or text or email or fill out online if they thought they were being discriminated against. In 4+ months, we've had over 500 cases submitted to us. Every case gets diligence, gets investigated, and if it passes muster, we will then send it to the lawyers to actually bring in action. So this is ongoing, and this is resulting in cases. And let me tell you, it's hard to get Claudine Gay, the former president of Harvard, to pay attention. You know what you will pay attention to? Hundreds of millions of dollars of federal money that could jeopardize her operation. So we started there, and the last thing I'll say is, about a month ago, we piloted a new program to do the same thing at K-12. We brought the same issue that's happening there. We brought in some big law firms that you know of, like Aiken Gump, Decker, Davis Polk, Covington, Burling, sorry. And we've just piloted that. It's not like official yet, but again, we're training hundreds of lawyers. We're going to bring cases, and we're going to use everything in our power to keep our kids safe. You know, I wrote this book, as you mentioned in the opening. I wrote a book 2 years ago called It Could Happen Here. And I wrote that book because we were seeing the rising intensification of hate in this country, the normalization of anti-Semitism in this country. You're seeing it from the far right, you're seeing it from the radical left. It's real, it's here, it's now. And to think that democracy is just going to work out. Like, democracy is not a foregone conclusion. Democracy is not a place that you arrive to, like I'm here, like in the sanctuary. Democracy is a work in progress. And it only works if we continue to progress. Democracy is not a spectator sport that you get to watch from the cheap seats. Democracy is a contact sport, and all of us need to get on the field. So I love what Jacob said before. Like, whether you give, or you volunteer, or you go run for that local school board, this only works if we fight for what we have. Again, like I was alluding to it a minute ago, my grandfather never would have imagined, he was a young man, that he would have grandchildren born in America. He would have thought Germany. My father-in-law never imagined he would have grandchildren born here, my kids. He would have thought Iran. But I don't take for granted that my grandchildren will be born here unless we fight for what we have. So you're all here, and you've made a choice in being here. But if you want your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren to be here, you better get ready to fight. And that may sound daunting, like I gotta fight, but think about again what our ancestors went through. This is nothing. America has been a gift. I am long on America. This is the best country, Israel aside, this is the best country in the history of humanity for Jewish people. This democracy is a special place. So we all gotta go in and do our part. So speak up when it happens. Don't stand idly by. Share facts. Don't dial down the drama. Know your stuff so you can be prepared to be literate on the issues. And show strength. Show up. Again, whatever you do, donate, write a petition, flag a bad post on Facebook, volunteer, get involved. Because it's going to, in order to win, it's an all hands on deck moment. That's what I would say. And if we do that, again, despite our numbers, the Jewish people have always punched above our weight. Always. 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 So we can win, we should win, and we will win if we give it our best.
The silence of those who were our friends on the platforms.
Science on our part?
Silence.
Well, Jacob alluded to it. It's pretty frustrating. It's pretty frustrating. How many Jews I know who define themselves as progressives or liberals, who see it as a liberal progressive camp, not only saying nothing on October the 10th, October the 7th, October the 8th, October the 9th, but then saying the wrong things. Or calling anti-Semitism and feeling the need to somehow connect it to Islamophobia. After the death of George Floyd, nobody said, I'm against anti-black racism and transphobia.
Why would you? It's ridiculous. Nobody said after the Asian American would be beaten in the streets in 2021, stop Asian hate and anti-ableism. Are you kidding me? So why is it confusing? Stop anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. They're not the same. Sorry. When those young Palestinian American kids were shot in Burlington, Vermont, it would have been profane. Do you remember this? They were in Kafias. They were shot in downtown Burlington. What was deemed a hate crime? It would be profane to say stop that kind of anti-whatever racism and anti-Semitism. Yet for some reason it feels like our partners feel the need to do that, or our allies, or they say nothing at all. The good ones, or they say nothing at all. On the other hand, I think part of it is because things are so polarized today. Part of it is because the anti-Zionism has been normalized by so many. Part of it is because they don't want to show any sort of affinity for Benjamin Netanyahu. But we end up suffering, all of us here. But the stories aren't all bad. I mean, some of you may or may not know that the ADL co-chair, the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington last August, the NAACP, the Urban League, and that's actually never. And who was the first person to call me on 10/7, or one of the first people? You know this? One of the first people to call me on 10/7? Al Sharpton. And he said, what can I do? I said, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know, but maybe they could release a statement. Within 24 hours, his group, the National Action Network, Martin Luther King III, the NAACP, the National Urban League, goes all released a joint statement condemning Hamas and 10/7. Period. With the Reverend Al. Like, I've got to know him through the years. He helped organize that march. And we had, on that march in Washington, there were people who said, we won't be on the stage if the ADL is on the stage. And Reverend Al, God bless him, he said, you know what? So we can go jump in the lake.
This is a really important point. I learned this after the Champlain Towers building collapsed in Surfside. I was meeting with a FEMA employee at the time, and he said, FEMA, we have a saying, a disaster is a terrible time to be exchanging business cards.